Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. In this episode, let's travel across the world and explore one of the most epic military groups in history. These men were more than just a fraternity, they were an entire class, and they dominated the fabric of Japanese society for hundreds of years. They were in many ways the Far Eastern counterpart to the European medieval knights, but they outlasted the feudal system in Europe by over 300 years. Let's explore the famous Japanese warrior class, the samurai. Now, Japanese culture has a long and mostly continuous history spanning thousands of years. In the 12th century AD, largely simultaneous with the rise of the medieval feudal system, a feudal system of sorts arose in Japan as well. This would be the beginnings of what historians would come to know as samurai culture. Like medieval lords, the samurai rose to a dominant class level in Japan largely for their military conquest. Remember, this is the medieval world, and it was not just true in Europe and the Middle East that the strong survived. If you had military might, generally you'd rise to power and wealth in society. The samurai were essentially the East Asian counterpart to the feudal lords of medieval Europe. The samurai kept a strict code to which they would adhere at all costs. Included in this code were ideals of bravery, honor, and loyalty. The samurai lived by these ideals for centuries until the 1800s, when the face of Japanese culture began to change drastically. Finally, in 1868, the Meiji restoration of Japan began. Part of the fallout of this cultural shift included the dissolution of the samurai class and feudalism in Japan, and it was officially discontinued in 1871. Still, the backbone of the 700-year influence of the samurai remained in Japan. In World War II, the Japanese Imperial Army became infamous for employing another tactic of the samurai, honor suicide. For the samurai, it was better to die in war than surrender in war, and the Japanese Army held the same belief. This, of course, put the U.S. in a very difficult position of whether or not to use atomic weapons on Japan. Many historians agree that had the U.S. not made the difficult choice to end the war in such a drastic way, the Japanese, in submitting to the total conquer-or-die mentality of the samurai, would have inflicted untold levels of damage both on themselves and on the world. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.